Temptation comes from our desires, which then gives birth to sin, which then gives birth to death. Today is day 34 of Lent. Thanks for joining me for today's daily verse from the Bible and the Quran as we go through the season together. Starting with the Bible, I am still currently reading the letter of James, and in the letter of James, in chapter 1, verse 13 to 15, it says, "And remember when you are being tempted, do not say, 'God is tempting me.' God is never tempted to do wrong, and he never tempts anyone else. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. These desires give birth to sinful actions, and when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death." So it kind of shows that it is a process where that temptation comes from our desires, and then that gives birth to sin. And then when we allow sin and we tolerate and we let it to grow, that then gives birth to death. If we go to the Quran in the chapter of Joseph in chapter 12, verse 53, I forgot there. It says, "I do not pretend to be blameless, for man's very soul incites him to evil, unless my Lord shows mercy. He is forgiving, merciful." And again, it's an interesting thing over here where Joseph says, "I do not pretend to be blameless, for man's very own soul incites him to evil." And that's the idea where temptation comes from our own desires. And if we let that go unchecked, it does give birth to sin and then gives birth to death. So in order to have that changed behavior and to move away from temptation, it's not to keep saying, "I need to stay away from this, I need to stay away from this," and constantly focusing on that, but the focus should instead be on God and getting to know him and his word, and that in turn will take that sort of temptation away because you're focusing on something new and positive and good rather than constantly thinking about the thing that you don't want in your life. So I hope those verses have blessed you today, and thanks for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow for another daily verse from the Bible and the Quran.